everybody. Welcome back to the Over the Top podcast. This is an Overthrow produced podcast where I bring on guests that I have the opportunity to talk to often and get real nerdy about things that help other people's games. So today we've got a special guest, but before we start talking about Danny, the biggest way you can support us is by joining our Patreon. And for our patrons, we have a special segment that is at the very end of this that is uploaded to Patreon every time, where they get to ask our guests their questions. So, and we've got a couple today. So without further ado, Danny Lindahl. And we're to the point where we probably got a mixed audience. Maybe some people don't know you. Maybe some people do know you. I'll give you my little informal intro here. Danny was you're probably the foremost disc golf teacher for years.
Really? I don't know. I don't know I would go that far.
And you got to like 50K subs on YouTube, right?
No, I'm at 33.
33. That's close.
We can call it. We can round up if you want to. That's fine. I'll take credit for that.
Yeah, which is massive because by the time you were 33, the closest person to you this was pre-COVID boom for disc golf and everything, right? So 33.
I think Simon Lizotte was the only like one guy operation that had more subscribers than me when I started working for DD.
Right. And he's on the entertainment side of YouTube. So
yeah.
I think
and Simon's huge. Simon's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Wildly impressive to get to 33,000 as a coach, especially prior to the boom, right? You were also coached by Loop Ghost.
Yes.
By Jason, who was, I don't know if you know this or not, he was the first person we got on the podcast. I thought that would be a great way to open up the podcast. He just seems
such
like
a cool
guy. Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy conversations with him. So
let's see, back in the day we had like Loop Ghost, and then Seabass 22 is still around doing stuff. He's like, those two are like the top of the mountain, right? The gurus that you go on like a massive pilgrimage to go visit and try and get morsels of their wisdom and apply that to your game. Those guys are incredible.
Yeah, it's funny. And I don't know if I'm supposed to, so I was messaging Seabass. I was messaging Seabass and I was like, hey, I want to talk to you here. Like, what do you feel about these options? I can like plan a time to like fly to you and spend some time there, or I can whatever. And he sends me back this. The guy's like goofy on the inside. He's got a little bit of a goofball in him that you would never uncover. He sends me this, like, I think it was a clip from Kill Bill or something like that, where she's going to like, she meets up with this, she goes to the mountain to the guru or whatever, and it's like come, I will teach you.
So, that's awesome. Yeah. So is that a collab coming down the pipe soon?
So I've got to reconnect. It's one of those things that unfortunately kind of fell through because he was like, I've got Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And we were running a 2-round tournament here during that time, and it wasn't like we had Dakota all locked and loaded for me to actually be able to just like jet. Yeah. So just I really, I'd like to get Seabass on, and I'd like to spend some time there because
he's got a lot of wisdom for sure.
Yeah. So your approach was a little bit different during the time because they were around doing stuff before you, right? Or give me timelines on how all this kind of happened when you entered the scene.
So when I started playing disc golf, I wasn't very good and I wanted to get better. And so I did some research, and I found DG Course Review, the forums there. I found some good posts there that kind of explained a little bit. And then there was some videos from Loop Ghost that really helped. But the way that my brain works is kind of mechanically. I tend to think of my body like a machine, like a trebuchet, or like however the mechanics, the levers to throw the disc. And a lot of the instructional content at that point was like, how does it feel? Or how can you try and generate this feeling? Or what are some drills that you can do that don't literally translate? It's just kind of trying to develop this kind of vibe. And that didn't really communicate for me, right? Like I could do the drill really well, but I couldn't translate that to my throw at all. And so once I was able to glean the information from those sources and then compare that to a throw and kind of put it in my own words of like what mechanically was actually happening, that's kind of where my my niche was, I guess. It's like literally what each body part needs to be doing during the throw. But it was well after that. Those guys, they had been around for a few years at that point.
Right. So I'm assuming when you're talking about the feel portions, you're not talking about sea bass and loop ghost, or you are talking about them. Who was on the scene that was in that feel camp?
It was kind of, yeah, it was sea bass and loop ghost. They, like a lot of the drills, like the crush the can drill or like the door frame drill, it's a lot of like, this is what your hip should feel like. This is what you're like isolating different body parts. But mechanically, how those apply to the disc didn't really come across and make sense.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, at some point, it's like throwing a hammer is really good.
Yeah.
And but it's like a hammer does not feel like a disc.
Yeah.
And I was having this conversation with a student today. He's like, he's very frustrated. He's at the point now, and I get it. I totally get it, because he's trying to get to the point where it's like he doesn't get the pivot out of the hand. Like his mechanics aren't bad enough not to throw past 200, but that's where he's at. So it's like, this is obviously a fundamental misunderstanding of how this thing moves. Like what's happening here to get this disc to go. And so he's very frustrated. And I mean, I had that because my putts, you've seen them in person, I think. So they're getting better.
Nice.
But anyways, yeah. So it's like there's this fundamental misunderstanding. And I'm like, okay, do you have a hammer? And I had a water bottle, and it was like, okay, if you throw the hammer, he's like, I got that. And he said, I can understand how that works because the hammer is weighted on one side.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that work with a disc?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the thing. It's like, I really want you to get this. But what you're struggling to understand right now is it is the same as a disc. You've got to get it to feel the same as the disc.
Yeah.
There is a heavier side to the disc. And the intellect of when you're holding a disc has to be the same mindset as when you're holding the hammer. Mm-hmm. And you just can't do it sometimes because it's like, but it's not a hammer.
Yeah,
it's a disc.
I've seen an old drill. I wish I remember who did it, but they put pieces of tape on the disc in the shape of a hammer. And like the handle, the base of the handle was where you grab it, and then the head was at the other side. And it's a weird way to hold on to a hammer, but that's the feel. And I think
exactly.
I think it's kind of it's more, my brain kind of goes to the why for everything. Like if I know what to do, I'm not really that motivated, but if I know why to do it, then it gets a lot deeper in me, I guess, in my brain. So like people say like, you need to brace. It should feel like this. Well, why? Why should my hip feel like that when I'm bracing? Why should that weight transfer be there? And because I didn't have a background in sports and I'd never felt that weight transfer before, I had no idea why. And so, kind of trying to explain that and understand that has been really interesting, really fun.
Yeah, because it's such a balance, right? Because you have people like us who we have to know why. You can't just tell me do this. I mean, if I try my darndest to get into an athlete mindset, and the best students, you just tell them, do this, and they do it. They don't even ask why. They don't care. And those guys are going to throw further than anyone who ever asked why.
Yeah.
But there's some of us out there where we have to know why. And so when I get a student that wants to know why, it's like, do you really need to know why? Do you have to? Like, if this is the thing, like for you and for me, it is absolutely the thing that we have to know why, or we will not go further. I don't do good in most workplaces because when someone tells me this is the job, do it this way, that seems like a stupid way to do that.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? And so I've been fired like 2 or 3 times for that. And it's just, I will never do something just because someone else says to do it.
You have to
And
know
so
the
for
reason
me,
behind it.
I have to have the why. And once I get there, it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I can see how that works. Then you like throw it away and go to the field as quickly as you can.
Oh yeah.
But for most people, knowing the why doesn't help. But
that's interesting. I'm interested to pick your brain about that. If I could ask a question, like,
this is super free flowing.
Okay. The biggest challenge for me in coaching, because I don't come from a sports background. I don't come from any of that. I just kind of talk, I guess. And is a lot of people that I don't know how to, like, from my experience, rephrasing the same concept in a bunch of different like perspectives and different ways is the only way that I know how to like get someone to understand. Like somebody who is throwing and they're muscling, right? Their arm is so tense and they're spinning really fast and they're trying to just really power the disc. I can explain to how to relax, and I can explain why it's good because your arm will whip faster with the fast switch, like all that. But how do you approach something like that? Do you have to try and develop the feel then, or keep explaining why, or I don't know. Are there any examples you have of students that have struggled with something like that?
Yeah, it's usually you have to take them to the opposite end of whatever spectrum they're on. So the reason that they're stuck where they're at and why they're coming to you for coaching is because they're stuck usually. It's not like, hey, everything in my game is going up, 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 and I just think I want to coach right now. Those people don't come to you.
Yeah.
It's the people who are like, I'm frustrated. I've been stuck here for a long time. And then they start asking questions of, okay, so I was watching this video and I know I need to do this, and I know my brace is messed up, and I know this is messed up, and I know blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I'm working with a thinker. I'm working with an engineer. What do you do for work? Tell me that you are a software developer. Tell me you're I can tell you, I can narrow down your occupation like that probably. Like, tell me you are a whatever.
Yeah, looking for bug fixes.
Yeah, because the reason that they're stuck is because they're thinking the way that they're thinking. Okay. And people tend to think a certain way, right? So if you're stuck in your distance, it's probably, I can guarantee you, it's not for lack of knowledge. So when I've got people who are stuck in distance and they've got all the knowledge, it's like, dude, you're thinking way too, you know more about form than Paul Macbeth knows. So he didn't get up like to where he was at knowing half the crap that you know. So that's not the way, right? You've got to stop thinking about this. You've got to start feeling, and you've got to spend a lot of time on the other end of the spectrum. I told a student this the other day. It was like, hey, the people who throw far, they're not us. They're not the people that throw far are the very people that annoy you, because I could tell what his personality was. They're the people who are like, oh, well, I feel like the ketogenic diet is not sustainable. And you would look at that person and you say, you can feel whatever you want because it works for me, right? This guy was on keto, right? I'm like, you get on keto and you do carnivore diet, you're not a normal person, right? Yeah. You are, here's the truth, here's the facts, here's what I've studied, I don't care about your feelings. And then the person who's like, I feel like this, throws way further than you. Yeah. Right? So you got to go be more like that person that you don't like.
Baseball players, man. I tell you, when I was first starting out, I was like, I don't know, MA2, MA1. The baseball players who just threw thumbers like 450 always annoyed me so much, because I was out there, I was grinding my form, I was working hard, I was trying to, get better, and I was like 380, 400 max. And then this baseball player who's like 6'6" just grabs a Firebird and chucks it overhand 450. It's like, come on, man, what are you doing?
Yeah. And you know what's funny is, so Dylan Cease, MLB pitcher, we were at his house and he's like, oh man, you know who I think has the best form? You want to guess, Danny?
Is it Drew Gibson or?
Nope. He's like, this guy is just so smooth. Give me your top 3 guesses.
Top 3 guesses for smooth. Let's see, James Conrad.
James Conrad.
Really?
He was like, that guy's just got the best form. That's just got to be the best form out there.
I mean, like, it's good, yeah. I think
like,
James,
what?
James is the perfect example I like to use for like tall people, because like his arms, the disc is smaller relative to his arms. So he has to move the disc differently to get the same angles as us normal height guys do, or somebody like Emerson. I genuinely don't know how Emerson throws as far as he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love James's form. It's so cool.
Yeah. And this is top tier athlete. And a lot of people would look at James and be like, wow, there's a lot of inefficiency there. Like Luke Ghost is, he was like, dude, he could get probably 85% of his output and extend his career if he did way less in his like run up. If he did half of what he does in his run up, he'd still get 85% of his results and lengthen his career by however long. That was Jason's.
He does that, like, usually people who do a Brinster hop, who do that like jump in their X step, they don't move very fast. If you look at Steve Brinster throw, he doesn't jump very much. Somebody like Devin Owens doesn't move very fast. Or
Devin Owens, that is a name that tells me when you came in the game right there.
He played a few tournaments in Western Arkansas, over in Alma. I remember seeing him play. Fort Smith. But yeah, those guys that do Brinster hops generally don't move that fast. James is the only one that moves that fast and also does the Brinster hop. So he's got all that extra forward momentum and also the downward momentum. And I don't know how all of that transfers into the throw. So I see where he's coming from with that, like, it's putting extra stress on him.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, that was the thing to me, is just like, what? This MLB pitcher is looking, and out of all the form he could have picked in all of disc golf to say, that's my favorite, I think that guy's just the smoothest, is James Conrad.
Yeah.
And that's the guy who's making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, there are guys who cannot throw 250 listening to this right now that would be like, no, I would not want James Conrad's form. It's wrong for this. And it's like, man, like, their thinking is just totally different from a top tier athlete.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's funny. So generally, kind of back on topic, is you've got to take people to the other side, in my opinion. So Mikey, for example, is very feel based. So I don't coach Mikey that much, but every now and again he'll say something, or we'll be talking about a concept, and he'll be like, yeah, I just don't understand, like, the gravity assisted brace. He's like, that just seems stronger to me. I don't know how the forward one that Chris Taylor's teaching would be better. He's like, you know what, I'll do it. And I was like, well, I think Chris Taylor would say this. And then I just kind of mime what Chris Taylor would say. And he's like, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to give everything I got. And then he gives it, and then he breaks 70 for the first time. It's like, what? So with Mikey, it's like, he's feel most of the time. And so I have to take him to the next level, just a little bit of the, like, intellectual part.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's so feel based. And so it's mostly when people are stuck at a plateau, it can be that they need more practice, but it's mostly a mindset thing. It's like, how are you not thinking about this in the way that you need to be thinking about it?
Yeah. That kind of sounds like a similar issue to the people who are like, I have all these issues in my form, I'm just going to throw it away and restart. And they try and, like, go back to a standstill, or like, or the same person will generally try to fix their footwork and their backswing and their brace and their release point, like all of that, a lot of things at the same time. And so that's why, like, when I was most grinding my form trying to improve, I would pick one thing at a time. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people to do, because they want to improve quickly, right? Because the disc golf learning curve goes up really steeply at the beginning, and then it starts to taper out, and people want that spike again. But it's tempting to just change, 5 or 6 different things at a time. But I think the another part that helps, really helpful, is going to just one thing. Just fix that one thing until it becomes something you don't have to think about, and then pick one more thing. So yeah, I think that's really wise.
Yep. Yeah, I had this on a live stream the other day. Someone was like, okay, but if I fix my tilt, like if I bend over the waist more, how do I not throw hyzer? And my response was, if I answer that question, are you going to actually work on your tilt, or are you going to work on your angle control?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you how to justify and do those things, or you could just know and look at, like, Simon and say that he's throwing with bend at his waist and it comes out Anheuser, so you know that there's a way.
Yeah.
And then just worry about it later.
Yeah, cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah. Just know, okay, it's possible because pros are doing it. So there's a way to make that happen that I don't understand right now, but somewhere down the road, I'll get to there. Like you're saying, cross that bridge when I come to it.
Something
So,
else I want to pick your brain on.
yeah.
That I'm just excited for, because you've been coaching so many people. You've seen so many people. I see a lot of people who look for something to click. A lot of people on the disc golf subreddit ask, like, what clicked for you? And suddenly you threw 400 feet. Or people are looking for that thing because they see the difference between where they're at and where some other people are at, and they want to. They assume that that's crossed in a quick time. Have you ever seen anyone click? Like, all of a sudden they go from 250 to 350, 400 feet?
I have seen it for sure, but there are very few things that you can have that click. For example, I had a guy, and I don't have a disc here, but I'll use my phone, who was throwing, and his grip, so he was throwing 450, and his grip was this on the disc.
Oh, just fan grip.
Yeah, fan
wild.
grip, not even like nothing in the rim. It's like, okay, if you figure out how to get to 450 and your fingers are all in the middle of a flight plate, oh, bro, it just clicked. Now I'm throwing 550. It's like, well, how did you, are you throwing nuke OSs? Like, is everything that you're throwing super overstable because you have no spin? Like, yeah, absolutely.
Apparently, yeah.
And it's like, okay, like, it clicked. But, or sometimes with grip, something with like, oh, you don't open your hand? Boom. Yeah. Oh, this thing pivots out? Okay, that's got high potential for it clicked.
From what I've seen, when something clicks, it's an understanding, and then the improvement still comes gradually. It's not like you click and you immediately jump.
Right, that's most things. I'd say that's almost everything, except for like, I don't know, pivot, or not releasing the disc, or you've got to throw through the shot, or nose angle, right? They're just less than, there are probably 5 or 6 categories that you can address and be like, hey, let's address this because your quality of life will improve very quickly if you stop holding the disc like this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what?
That's like, wild.
Yeah, just very few things. But most things, it's like, okay, you get this idea of, oh, what if I throw? So here's one that kind of clicks for people sometimes is, for example, when you're throwing anhysers, throwing through the shot, you throw forward and the disc is simply on an anhyzer angle out of your hand, but it's still just as forward as a flat or a hyzer shot.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to pull it down with your hand down to the right, and you don't have to guide it over to the right with your hand because now you're not going through the shot. Right? That's something that can tend to be like, okay, like that's a big difference. Oh, now my anhysers don't just like stall and die. So I got 100 extra feet on my anhysers. Sure, I could see that. That's an important thing, but yeah, not much. It's usually like, my experience has been the same as yours. Unless you have just a freak athlete.
Yeah.
To where you say something, and it happened with Mikey at points where I'd say something, and I'd be like, dude, I'd be in the field frustrated, and I'd say, Josh, do whatever. And then he'd be like, he'd throw his next one and go 50 feet further. You're like, oh, thanks. Like, that really helped, Josh. Thanks for saying that.
You freaking like, jerk over there. Just
screw you, because it's going to take me a whole nother month of practicing this to get it in there. And that's most hilarious. People. It's just, I know that I have to spend a month doing it. Like, okay, the tilt, throw with the tilt at your waist. I'm going to spend a month throwing only hyzers and changing the stability of my disc when I play courses that have holes that need to go to the right. Or I'm going to throw a forehand. So, yeah.
That's interesting. Dang it, I had a question. I forgot it.
No worries. It'll probably come back up. So, I have a question about your progression because you, like, I think most coaches, so if you look at like Seabass or Loop Ghost, or ace at disc golf, if you see these coaches who are very much like us in how we learn things, we learn the why, and then we learn to throw. It's a very mechanical looking throw. But I will say your throw looks mechanical, but it's also very smooth and it goes very far.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah, it was like, whoa, that's another level of slow. Like, that. No wonder why you say slow is smooth, smooth is far. Like, nobody would doubt that after watching you. They're like, oh, this guy really, he believes that.
Well, thank you.
So, what was your progression going through your throw? What are some kind of moments, things that you remembered working on as you were moving through?
Oh man. I think one of the first things that I learned was muscling, because when I learned how to throw, I learned with the Beto right pec drill. Are you familiar with that one? Where you hold the disc here and then whip it. And
yes,
for years, I would pull the disc up here by my neck because I was trying to get that shoulder extension and that elbow extension that drill teaches. And so I did that for a long time, and I was very, very upper body focused at the beginning for the first like year or so that I was playing. I was trying to figure out what to do with my arm. And then after a couple of years, I started to focus more on my lower body and try to work on that. And I'm still struggling with that and upper body to this day. I've always struggled with nose up, partially from that. Pulling up high gets your hand on the front of the disc and tilts it back. And then the footwork, I've always had that little bounce that I need to get rid of because I think the lateral works better for the rest of my throw. But yeah, it started with a lot of muscling and then slowly working on footwork. My I guess the most nerdy moment that I've had is when I was I used to work at a restaurant, and every morning we had to wipe all the tables, and I would wipe a table off, clean it all, and then I would do my footwork, like a little X step, and then I would be at the next table and I would start wiping that one. And it was just to grind it over and over again to try and get that muscle memory down.
Yeah. So do you think, in retrospect, that the progression that you went through with focusing mostly on arm in the beginning set you back? Did it take you longer? Or do you think, I probably would have got here the same way?
I think if I were teaching someone now, I would start from the ground up. I would start with make sure your feet are doing the right thing, make sure your weight is doing the right thing, you're not running, you're not jumping. And then because a lot of the arm, there's a drill that I was trying for the first time a while ago where your arm is just limp. And then by turning back and forward, it kind of swings in and out and does the right thing without any effort. It's wild when you do it. But yeah, I would definitely start with footwork. I don't know that it held me back because of the mental state that I was in. I just, I'd always heard you don't need to try and like tense up and muscle it. And I thought, oh, that's for all the big, strong guys. But I was, 130 pounds soaking wet. So I thought I had to muscle it. So yeah, that set me back. But yeah, I think I would start from the ground up.
Yeah, very Loop Ghost-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's kind of two camps here, kind of, I guess three. People who start from the ground up, people who start from the hit back, and then people who just bounce in between, depending on the student. So I'm very interested to see what happens. It seems a lot like from the tennis world where you'd have like the Spanish method and then you'd have more of like the Western, like American type method where it was like Spanish people, they just run for everything. Their footwork first, and like they could have the grip wrong. Like they're just getting to everything. It's just like learn to move properly with your, like, learn how to get to the ball properly and get set up properly, and then we'll fix the swing kind of later. And then like Americanized is like, let's interact with the ball first and figure out upper body mechanics, and then they don't know how to move their feet, and then you kind of work on the other one later.
I think that's kind of interesting though, because like the more I think about it, if I'm starting with a new player and I want them to improve the quickest, right? If I want them to go play and then shoot a better score the next round, I'm probably going to focus on upper body at that point, right? Getting the disc to fly flat and getting it to. But if I'm if I'm working with someone who wants to be competitive, right? They're coming from another sport and they're like, I want to eventually, win tournaments, stuff like that. That's when I would start with the ground up. So I guess you got to kind of change it based on the person. Because all of my friends that I've taken out to play, I've said, just stand still and then here's what your arm does. Because I want them to be able to just basically throw the disc.
Right. Yeah, that'd be kind of like the American tennis method is we'll set your feet up here so that they can't get in your way, and then we'll worry about the hands.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's true as well, is you have to look at timelines, because if you've got a junior or someone like that, then you can set up a lot. You can be a lot more patient and get the lower body set up and work on that stuff, and then know that the upper body, you've got time and it'll kind of fall in place. So, but there is kind of this quality of life, I think, if you're going to take someone through a pendulum progression and make sure that they're feeling the weight shift and all that stuff, you might be there for 6 months before they can throw 200, 250.
Yeah, but they're going to go from 250 to 450 a lot quicker.
Yeah. Yes, you kind of decide when the plateau hits. So it's interesting, because it's like, man, is it better to have an understanding of how the disc moves and have that inform your footwork? Or is it better to understand leverage and then understand how the disc moves after that? It's interesting. It's
where the
how
force
does the disc
comes
go, or how do I throw things far?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to get your perspective on, like, because I haven't been obviously making content as much anymore, but like the disc golf instructional landscape on YouTube, like it seems at different times that it's been very I don't know, I assume it's mostly viewers perception of this is it seems like tribalistic. Like there's people who are like, oh, I just listened to Overthrow, or I just listened to Danny, or I just listened to, I don't know, someone else. And it seems like that has kind of gone away a little bit, at least from my perspective. But I'm interested to know, do you get people who are like, no, I don't listen to anybody else, I just listen to you? Or are they like, oh no, I listen to...
Yeah, so this is super interesting, because there's this whole... So let's say that I was teaching from a... Let's say my method was only to teach from the hit back.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how I would work with a student, which is not... I'll flip-flop depending on the student. And let's say, for example, that you would only teach from the ground up. Personally, I don't want a student of mine watching your videos if they're a student of mine, even if I agree with you, because I'm going to tell them, here's the homework. Here's what I want you to focus on. This one thing, or maybe these two things. And then they're subscribed to you, which I want them to be subscribed to you, but I don't want them to go, okay, Josh told me to work on the hit in my grip, and then Danny's video comes out and it says power from the ground up, we're working on footwork. It's like, now they're not working in a way that's effective for them. We know that both of those things aren't going to work at the same time.
Yeah.
So for me, I would advocate that if they're working on something, to actually not consume content from other people, especially if they're the type of person like we were talking about earlier, where they're going to remember all these things. And then when they look at their video and they do the thing that I told them to do, their eye goes to their brace instead of their hand. And they're like, hey, I mean, you've worked with students before. It's like you get them to do the thing that you wanted them to do. And you're like, in your mind, you go, yes, they did it. And their reaction is, like, what? What was wrong with that? Well, my brace wasn't good. It's like, who said anything about the brace, bro? What are you talking about? I have one litmus test right now. It is, do you extend or do you not extend? That's it. It's either it's pass or fail on that one thing. And you got all these other thoughts coming in that are going to make you less successful. So in that sense, I'm very much in the, if you are getting coached and that coach is not yourself, listen to your coach, and don't listen to the other voices, not from a coaching capacity.
Yeah.
Because I would, if they want to work with you, I'm happy for them to work with you. If they want to work with me, I'm happy for them to work with me. But I've had people say, this is my coach, and I'm thinking about, or I want to get your opinion on my form. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not doing that. That's not good for you. That's not good for you. That's not good for me. I don't want to coach you if you're already being coached by somebody else. Now that you've told me that, conversation over. Talk to your coach.
It's like posting a form check on the internet, just a Facebook group or Reddit or something. Like those can be really useful, but it's a great way to get advice from a bunch of different places. I mean, well-intentioned people, I'm sure, but some of the advice that I've seen on those form checks is like it's not as constructive as I think it's intended to be.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. But yeah,
absolutely.
I think the main thing is like I don't disagree with what you teach, right? Like I've never seen a video of yours and been like, no, that's entirely wrong. I thought maybe that's not how I would phrase it, but I don't disagree with conceptually what you're saying. And I think a lot of people, they'll watch one of my videos, one of your videos, one of Seabass, whoever's videos, and be like, wow, these guys are all disagreeing with each other, but really we're just phrasing the same thing different ways.
Right. Yeah. I took your question as an opportunity to soapbox real quick.
No,
and now I want to go to this is your real question. So for the sake of those viewers, be coached by one person, and that's it. If you're just like trying to consume stuff for knowledge, that's totally different. Just know you're not going to get better as quickly as you could if you just like
I think it's
followed
about
one person that you trusted. But yeah,
finding the coach that speaks to the way that you learn, right? That your brain works.
Yeah. So the coaching community as of now, there are some people who are like island coaches. So since this person isn't doing videos anymore, I'll use their name. So Spin and Throw had the same feel, the same vibe, right? And this is such a weird thing in the disc golf community. It does not happen really in other communities. And if it does, then it's like, why is this coach coaching? Like everybody kind of knows.
Yeah.
So where you could go into the Spin and Throw thing and all of their people would come into my little, especially in the beginning, they'd be like, give credit to Spin and Throw now. It's like Bradley Walker said this 2007 years ago. And it's like, I'm not watching his stuff. I really don't know. I really could care less.
The coaches to watch out for are the ones who say, nobody else is talking about this. What I'm saying is right. And everybody else is, those are the ones that like, they can be, I don't know, they can be kind of toxic.
Right. That's what you have to watch out for.
It's interesting. It doesn't happen in other communities though. I would expect that it would.
Kind of does, right? But those coaches don't last very long. The thing is when someone's saying, and this is kind of like a red flag for me, is if there's another coach saying, nobody else is teaching it this way, this is the only way, it's like, whoa, like why? Why isn't it being taught that? That's a red flag. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So as a student, if you're hearing this person is on their own island and they're advertising themselves as their own island, why? Like, why would you go to that? So I would stay away from that. And there are a couple out there that are doing that. But I think, and this is kind of a big goal of mine as well, is to show like, hey, there might be some form disagreements. There might be, but most of us are talking about how do you actually improve students?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, but phrased differently.
Yeah.
At least from the way I see it, is like the way that you teach how to brace is going to be different from how I teach how to brace. But at the end of the day, the correct brace is what we're both aiming for. We're not trying to,
right.
You know.
Yeah, we both know it when we see it.
Yeah.
It's like, that one, do that one. Like, yes, you did it. And for me, I don't care what I have to say to get you to do it. Like, I will phrase it, and YouTube is so weird in that sense. Because you're kind of looking and you're saying, okay, here's when you're putting out a video And I can only imagine when you started putting out videos, but like when you started putting out videos, you got to go, okay, how am I going to, out of all 17 ways that I've described this in the last week, which way am I going to publicly put forward as the way?
And that takes a lot of talent. I have a lot of respect for you because you are really good at like phrasing it different ways, looking at it from all the different perspectives. It's like putting out a bunch of different examples and finding the one that connects with the student. And that's really, really difficult to do. And I have a lot of respect for being able to do it so many different ways. That's a real talent.
Yeah. Just, it comes from a lot of frustration with not being able to say it in a way, you know, when you get a student and it's like, there's got to be another way to say this that they understand, and I'm just not finding it.
Especially
and
the ones
I really
that really want to learn. They really want to be there. They want to learn it. And it's just like, I can't get that connection.
Yep. That's where another way is born right there. Mm-hmm. So many drills were just like twirly bird. I was just trying to get somebody to coil. That's what was happening. That was it. Like I was just trying to get them to turn their shoulders back. And it's like, dude, just do this. Just out, spin, keep your feet in place. And there's twirly bird. And it's like, you know, that wasn't meant to be a form piece on the entirety of disc golf. That wasn't meant to be like, you know, this is it. Even though I'm pretty sure we titled it to where it probably sounded like that.
That's part of the YouTube game. That's how it goes, you know?
Yeah, we try not to be too YouTube gamey, but yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah, that's where it's born. And that's, you know, those people who struggle and us who struggle to move ourselves, that's where the stuff comes out. Like when I understand things and I guinea pig on myself to make stuff happen, it's just to understand it deeper. And I know that that's going to help somebody. Like my putting yips are meant to help other people be better putters. Even if I'm never a better putter, someone else is going to be a better putter because of this. So yeah.
That's funny. Do you play much anymore? You've been getting out to the course pretty regularly?
I play a little bit, and you know, this is something I definitely want to talk about. Is I've been making a couple form changes. We've got the tech disc here.
Exciting.
And so I found some really interesting things via tech disc. Well, actually, I didn't find them via tech disc. I found them via conversations. Have you been keeping up with like Ace at Disc Golf? Have you seen any of his stuff?
I haven't, no.
He's actually a Seabass student. He's the U of Loop Ghosts. So he is, you are a Loop Ghost student. He is Seabass's student.
That's awesome.
Man, I guess to be like a certified OG, you've got to have a coach under you that also does YouTube at some point.
That's what I'm missing. Got it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, dude, that would make, that's basically the race between Loop Ghost and Seabass, is if you have a student that starts doing YouTube, or if ACIT has a student that starts doing YouTube first. That'll
Taking
determine
applications now, yeah.
Yeah, so you're in an interesting place. Are you planning on going back and doing any more coaching, by the way, or are you kind of feeling like you're in the media side now?
Do you mean like one-on-one coaching or like instructional videos?
Either.
I've dipped my toe into one-on-one coaching, but I'm just not very good at it. The struggle that I've had is that I want, if people like are coming, taking time to go listen to me as a coach and get my opinion on things, I want them to improve in the moment. But a lot of times it's an issue that like I'll talk about ways they can address it, and then they'll fix the issue, but their throw isn't better yet, right? They're not rounding anymore, but the disc is going the same distance. And not only that, they're less accurate. Mm-hmm. And so it takes hours of learning, your new throw and developing that to get that improvement. And so that step backwards is really all that you see, or that I've seen in coaching. I haven't seen the steps forward. So that's kind of the hurdle that I'm trying to get over in that one-on-one spot. But I think it's interesting. It could be fun.
Yeah, it's so tough, right? Because as the coach, you're telling them trust the process, and you're also telling yourself trust the process.
Yeah.
Like they will get better. Like they need to trust the process, and I've got to trust the process of them trusting the process. So that, because if you just go there and it's like, okay, they're still doing this thing wrong. Like maybe if I just give them the next step, they'll get there. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. And so there's a lot of pressure to want to move the needle for them. And it just feels like in those lessons where someone's just not moving the needle, and it's like they're stuck and they're just looking at you like,
like, why isn't it
please.
doing it? Why isn't it better yet?
Yeah, like, what's happening to me? Please.
Yeah.
Like, this is worse than where I started. You're like, I want to help you so bad, but I can't. Like,
yeah.
it's like when you put your kid down, right? And they're just screaming and they're like, they think their world is ending. When you put them to bed, they're like, they're leaving. The lights are out.
Yeah.
I've got to be in the same room with them. And it's like, no, you don't. Like, one day you're going to get to the point where you go to sleep on your own.
Yeah.
And you will sleep 8 hours on your own. And I don't have to check on you all the time. But the only way to get there is to not check on them all the time. You got to say, they got to cry a little bit. They're going to cry for a little while. You know, if you're still crying after 20 minutes, I'll come in and I'll check on you and make sure you're still alive and good. And there are kind of those moments with those students where it's like they send you that message and it's like, okay, wow, this is emergency. He literally thinks he's dying.
Yeah.
So let me step in there. But short of that, you're kind of like, I need you to struggle. I really need you to struggle, because the only way you're going to be able to do it on your own is discovered learning.
So it's recurring lessons. It's like doing them every week or every couple of weeks or something like that, and coming back and revisiting it is how to I guess overcome that, because then you see the improvement and you can check in on people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's checking in enough to make sure, okay, you're on the path. You are headed in generally the correct direction. Like I've told you, hey, there's this thing in that room. It's a light switch. It's rectangle like this. It's going to be dark when you go in there, but you're looking for, it's on the wall, probably about this high. Flick that thing up and the lights will come on. Then you'll be good. And they're in there and they're just, trying to find it, and they're just like freaking out. And you're like, you got it. Yep. You're close. It's close. And they're just freaking out because it's dark. Yeah. It's like, no, keep going. You'll get there. And so you got to check it enough to, not have them just curl up in a ball on the floor and cry. Right. But, it's way better for them to discover the answer. It expedites the learning so much than you going in and doing it for them.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough, man. Just especially with those people who are struggling the most. The kid that's crying the loudest is the one that gets paid attention to first. And it's like,
yep. Everybody wants shortcuts too. Everybody wants to just, jump that progression step, and it's not always feasible.
Yeah. So repeated lessons is definitely important, and check-ins often. I'm trying to change the way I do my coaching to because our system's not perfect. Like, you have an hour or you have 30-minute lesson a month. It's not really enough, and you can talk to me in the in between, but really more touches is better. So yeah, and just have to trust the process.
Yeah,
but it is tough.
So you asked about that, or doing more media stuff like videos on my personal channel. The place I'm at right now is I make disc golf videos at work all day, and then I get off work and I don't really feel like making more disc golf videos. And like the impetus for me starting making videos was because I saw I was watching forum checks on the disc golf subreddit, and I had typed up a few responses about people who were just fully turning backwards in their X step, like completely turning away. It's a really common issue. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just make a video and then I can just use this instead of typing the whole thing up. And so I made the video and I started doing that. And then the video was well received. And then the impetus, the reason that I started making videos was just because there wasn't another good video explaining it. But nowadays there's a lot of content creators out there that are, in my opinion, accurately and with high production value explaining what I would do, filling that kind of niche. And so I don't really see a vacancy, right? Like a spot where my style of instruction, especially at the production quality that I can do right now, just in my free time outside of work. There's not really that spot because I feel like there's enough other good creators out there that are filling that spot.
Yeah, you're kind of if you were kind of the Batman back in the day. It's like there's something that's this is who they need, not who they deserve. So if all the coaches go away, you'll come back.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing.
Well, I mean, I sure hope that doesn't happen because that would be. Yeah, that's funny. I've never been compared to Batman. That's distinctly not my vibe, as I can tell. But I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'll be Batman any day I can.
yeah. So what's your current path? What are you doing currently for the people listening, and where are you going? How did you get to where you're at?
So,
Where
what I'm
are
doing
you at,
currently.
and where are you going?
So where I'm at now is I work in media for Dynamic Discs. I make most of their YouTube videos and then some ads and other stuff. I'm working on some radio ads this week. Um, Never made those before. It's been fun. But like I mainly edit videos. I sometimes will do like original like instructional videos, but most of what I've been doing lately is just practice round content, which is fun because I love editing Matty O rounds. They are the highlight of my week when I get to edit one of those. Um, but yeah, I got there because I was making videos on my own, just putting out content on my personal channel. I was grinding out weekly videos at one point while also working at a restaurant. And the media guy, Bobby, who now works for Clash Discs, just reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to come make videos for them. And so, yeah, it was 5.5 years ago. And I've been at DD ever since. I think if I currently the way where I'm at with DD is I'm just I don't have capacity to make videos on my own channel. I get off work. I work 410s because my fiance lives an hour and a half north of me, and so I work 10 hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Thursday night I drive up here and stay until Sunday night, and I drive back. And so not only do I just not have the creative energy to make videos when I'm not at work, but I also don't really have much time. It's often, especially in the off season, dark when I get off work. Um, so yeah, it's just I don't know that I'll start posting as many videos on my personal channel. I have some ideas. I think I messaged you about using footage for an idea that I had a while ago, but I just didn't have a. I was going to ask about using the Simon Lizotte slow motion video.
Yes.
I have that idea written down and scripted out somewhere, but I just haven't had the gumption to actually make it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to remember what the idea was because now I'm curious. But
I think it was something about the back foot, about how when you're bracing, how a lot of times your back foot will actually kick forward before it swings around. Seabass has a video about it. That's really interesting. Something about that. I wish I could find the script for it, but
yeah, yeah, that's just because the lateral movement of the brace, right?
yeah.
So everything's shifting forward.
But
Yeah.
you see a lot of people who are either turning back too much or trying to focus too much on the rotation. Their foot will just kind of whip forward.
Yeah.
Because they're just spinning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. I just got a Wiggins clip from Chris Taylor, who's the one doing like distance comp.
Yeah.
And he's a Wiggins's coach, and it's on this 360. We used it in a recent video actually, but you could just see how much, even during his like a 360 throw, how much that foot slides before it comes around. It's incredible. Whoa.
Yeah. It's a lot of loading just for that snap right at the last second.
Right. And then you look at the size of like his legs. Like, might have something to do with his distance a little bit there, but yeah, it's incredible. Cool. Yeah, those practice rounds that are being edited are absolute gold. Do you ever think about any instructional content coming out of those? Because when I watch them, I get a lot of info that I then translate to students on the shot selection front, on the mental game front. Is there any content coming out from DD on the instructional side, maybe?
That's
building off
some of
those.
our ideas for the off season, because we're on the kind of treadmill right now with the tour. We're following the tour and kind of putting these out before every event. But in the off season, I'm sure we'll go through and we'll find those clips, those little nuggets of wisdom, like where Matteo talks about playing in Europe. He talked about just throwing it past the basket and making your comebacker just to make sure that you get it there because it was an uphill shot or something. There's a lot of really valuable insight there that we might cut out and use for content during the off season. Otherwise, I try to cut, if they're short enough, I'll make like reels or TikToks or YouTube shorts out of them. If you see those from us, they pop up on my feed. I see them because I make them all the time, so I don't know if that's part of it, but yeah, they pop up all the time. I'll try to cut them for that, but we've got plans for some of that stuff in the off season.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting. Well, I could go into specifics. The one that I just watched recently was the Ricky one in prep for Worlds that had a lot of really good kind of juicy information. I think especially when he was talking about using explorers versus the mid ranges on that lower shot and
Whole 10,
how the height, how the height is affecting the push. It's just something that's not talked about a whole lot. And it reminded me of a time when we were at Maple Hill with Simon. It's like, oh, I should have gone one more flippy. And Simon's like, no, I just don't think you threw it low enough. And I thought, interesting. That's when I thought, man, Simon would be a good coach.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be a coach at the time, but I was like, man, this is the kind of stuff that really is super important. Just the experience type things.
Yeah.
To where they know shot selection, kind of the intricacies of that.
Matteo talks a lot about gravity, about throwing like onto a side slope and knowing that your disc is going to get pulled down. He's got a lot of wisdom there. Ricky talks a lot about playing to the circle rather than playing to the pin, like why he might choose a forehand versus a backhand. Even though it fades away from the pin, he's still going to be inside the circle, where if he tries to attack the basket, then he's more likely to get caught up short and leave himself outside the circle or something. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in those practice rounds.
Yeah, I remember Paul one time talking, or I had a friend tell me first about the whole slope thing. We're like, yeah, since it's a left to right slope, it's going to pull it over to the right. And I thought, that sounds like bogus. Why would it do that? Aren't you just throwing it straight all the same? How would it affect that? And so I just kind of wrote it off as that's dumb. And then in a video with Paul, a week or two later, Paul was like, yeah, I'm going to stable up here you need to stable up here because the hill's going to pull it to the right. And I was like, okay, I believe you now.
Yeah.
So it's just those little things. Have you ever seen that? What's that golfer? Phil Mickelson.
Phil Mickelson. That's how I've heard his name said before, but I don't know what I've seen.
Yeah, there's a very famous clip from him where he's like just spouting off things that younger golfers wouldn't think about, like this in the middle of the day, this club's going to go this much further, or you're going to have to in the morning because there's dew on the grass, you have to do this. It's going to slow the ball down this much. It's just all these little things he's firing off. I'm like, dude, I want the disc golf version of that clip.
Yeah.
Just where they're spouting off all the little details that took years and years of practice to learn.
Yeah.
Like,
and they probably don't save one stroke on any given hole, but over the course of a round, they probably save 3 or 4. They just add up. Yeah.
And it's the difference of, okay, on hole 10, I'm going to go to Explorer because these these mids need a little too much height, and they're going to, there's that much more separation from the ground that I have to use, and they're going to fade out before they get there. So I'm going to throw an Explorer lower so that it's not fading out, but so I could push it and catch the grass in front of it. And it's like, okay, that's why you got a couple world championships. I understand now.
There's a lot of wisdom for sure.
Yeah. So you are a techie guy.
Reasonably, yeah.
Yeah. You enjoy technology and the benefits of it. And you have tried Tech Disc, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Tech Disc is so cool.
Yeah, Tech Disc is super sweet. It's helped me kind of toy around with different form pieces and seeing how they affect. Just to see, can I Can I change the number here? Can I increase my spin? Can I decrease my spin? Can I increase my speed? Can I like with the same form, just changing one variable, seeing what
Yeah.
happens? What innovations are you excited about currently? And what innovations would you like to see?
So as far as tech disc, I have a cool anecdote. Before it was Michael, I believe was his name. I'm pretty sure it was Michael. Set it up in the dynamic disc store, and we were there filming for something. And I tried throwing a few times, and I had positive nose angle, positive angle of attack, and that's something I've been working on for years. But I also have hardly played this year, so it's understandable that that would be the first mistake that kind of slips back in. And I was getting frustrated. Like I was like, man, I feels like I'm tilting my wrist down. It feels like I'm doing everything. And that day I never got it nose down. And then the next day, or the next time I was there, he was also there, and I was trying to get it nose down. And he was very nice. He was saying, it's pretty normal to not see a fix, while you're here. Usually you have to go, do some practice and come back. But that day I was able to get like a negative 1.7 angle of attack. I was able to start just tilting my wrist more, raising my follow through, and pushing my release out in front of my body rather than in line. I was really excited to see that improvement happen in real time. I thought that was so cool to see. So yeah, love Tech Disc. Tech Disc is really cool. Sorry, as far as innovations, as far as cool things to see, it's I guess less techy, but I think the coolest thing would be a noisemaker to find my freaking disc. When I chuck it into the pile of leaves and I can't see it anywhere, just make it go beep with an app would be incredible. I'm sure that exists already somewhere, but that's the first thing that jumps to mind. The other thing that's part of like what Tech Disc did that I thought was really cool was you can see how the disc is moving before it releases, right? You can see how it's moving while you're throwing. And being able to see that kind of, whether it's a curve in and then out, or whether it's a curve this way, or whatever it's doing, can be really beneficial to analyzing any issues in your form. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. Nothing's off the top of my head as far as new tech things. Well, do you have any ideas? What are you thinking of?
Oh, I'm pretty happy with Tech Disc.
Yeah.
I do like the capture of data. Somebody was showing me some. Well, should I say that? I think I'm really excited about the potential. I think there's going to be a point in time where VR meets coaching to the extent of I could put on glasses and I could be there kind of in real time. The whole Apple whatever's coming out is going to be used for sports at some point in time. So you put on your goggles, I put on my goggles, you see my hand grabbing your arm and pulling you, nope, pull this way, and go, and then you see me there. I think before I'm done coaching, that's going to be a thing where
that would be so cool.
Yeah, where we're virtual, but I'm right there in the room with you. So I think that's going to happen. Things that are probably needed to grow the space is more of an instant feedback visually on your throw, kind of like what you were mentioning. So where you can see us have a screen set up or something and then have that kind of playback loop of what you're doing. And somebody showed me something really cool. And so it's a pair of glasses, and it's for a different purpose. It's not for a sports purpose. And this guy set it up to where he's got the glasses on. He mounted a camera in front of him, and so now he can see himself.
Oh, cool.
From, like, no matter where he turns his head, it's always front and center.
Yeah.
Like, he could always see himself. So he can go real time without having to go like look at the screen the whole time. He could look like this, and he could see exactly what his form was doing, right? Versus just standing in front of a mirror where you have to look at the mirror the whole time, right? So I think that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
When that becomes a thing. I don't think that was a secret that I was supposed to keep because it's somebody else's technology and he can't license it anyways. So, but it hadn't had a sports application yet. I forget what they're using it for, but it's not sports.
motion tracking is always getting better. You know, where the like when the ping pong balls or whatever on all your joints and everything. If that was more consumer available, right? Like if you could just film yourself throwing with that suit on and be able to watch it in 3D and see what you're doing to be able to fix issues, that would be really cool too.
Yeah, like cheap Motrack
Yeah,
suits.
yeah,
Yeah. Did you see the so there's going to be more info. The data coming out in disc golf nowadays is getting more and more prevalent, which is cool. The Chris Taylor's motion capture down in Texas with like
yeah.
a cajillion. I don't remember the number, so I'm saying cajillion, but a bunch of MPO guys. I think it was probably. I mean, it's more than 18.
Yeah.
So
I saw that. I saw some of the stuff from that, but I think it would be cool if that was consumer available so you could compare that, right? Like you could see your throw in 3D compared to someone else's throw in 3D and
right,
see like what you need to change.
it might be. Yeah, there's going to be app integration at some point on
Oh,
that.
that'd be so sick.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? This is total rabbit trail, but what are your thoughts on all the courses coming out nowadays? Everybody's got a coaching course, right? You got Pulse, so you got Avery's thing, you've got Yuli's thing, you got Slingshot's thing, you got Seeker's thing, you got probably more that I don't even know about. Right? How
The
do you?
only one I've really dug into is Seeker. Dynamic Disc was partnered up with them for a while to do some instructional stuff or planning. And then I haven't really looked into Pulse or any of the others. I think it's interesting. I don't, in my experience, some of the top MPO pros are really, really good at teaching and really good at understanding the mechanics and how to apply them. There are some of the top pros that are just really good and they develop that quickly and naturally through like a lot of years playing, and they don't have as much experience translating that to newer players. So that's the only hesitation that I would have about something like that. But I haven't looked into any of them. From what I've seen, Yuli is a fantastic teacher, and he's going to do great. He's Pulse, right?
Yuli is Power Disc Golf Academy, and
Oh,
I don't
Power
know.
Disc Golf Academy.
Yeah,
That's right.
I don't know how I forgot him on the list because that's probably the most prevalent.
Yeah, I've seen Pulse ads everywhere. Avery, I haven't seen any content from him lately.
Right.
The old stuff
Avery
that I see was
is
very
the
old.
Pulse.
Okay.
So Pulse is Avery's. The Power Disc Golf Academy is Yuli's, and then you got Slingshot and Seeker, and someone else that I said, but I can't remember.
I think it's interesting that I think it's gonna we're gonna have to see how the market responds, right? Because if part of that deal is like like coaching with the pros, if you're able to like get responses from them or form checks or things like that, I can see a lot of value in there. But otherwise, I think besides the vetting, right? Like people, they're only posting like quality videos. I don't know that information's not available already on the internet. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited for it. It has a potential to be really good, but there are some, I guess, dangerous parts to it as well.
Yeah. I remembered a question I wanted to ask you from earlier, and it was, what has your progression in coaching or the way that you changed your understanding or your verbiage on some things been? Because there's been some.
Yeah. I don't know if you've experienced this, but like, have you ever thought about deleting old videos?
Absolutely. And
have you done it?
There are a couple that are unlisted, not deleted.
Yeah, because there's old videos that I've put out that I'm like, man, why would I even say that? But at the end of the day, I think it like it tells the story of my progression of learning. And if people see that it's 6 or 7 years old, they're probably gonna understand that I have better information now. I think mostly the progression that I've had, besides just learning more and being able to dive more in depth in concept, is I think in the past I've taught to be too rigid, right? To hold your arm here at 90 degrees and then bend your elbow just like that, and it's robotic almost. And I think the what I learned, I guess, a couple years ago, is a lot more about staying loose and about letting your whole body work together rather than fighting it to stay in position. That's probably the biggest change. I've tried to stop calling it a reach back, start calling it a backswing. That was a Seabass thing, I think. But yeah, I can't think of any other like big changes besides just the general progression of learning more, having more experience phrasing things and being able to phrase them different ways in the same video. And yeah, that's most of what I think anyway.
Yeah. It's tough when you're looking at those old videos because there's kind of this, oh, I would not describe it like that today. And then you have to wrestle with the comments on there where the video obviously helped people. And the
Yeah.
reason that you described it that way back then was because it helped people.
Yeah.
And so where you were at with your coaching there is all from the same heart of how do I get this person to improve? And then you said the things to the people, help them improve. And then a year or two later, your understanding of it changed a little bit, or the way that you think you found a better explanation for it. Then you're like, oh, I want to delete this so bad. And for me, the difference is like, is this just doing way more harm? If someone thinking about this, really, is this just a bad way to think about it?
Yeah.
And you can't cover that for everyone. Like, there are going to be people out there where that's the best way for them to think about it.
Mm-hmm. That's like when I learned how to play the Beto right pec drill, right? Like so many people have used that and it benefited them and it taught them how to throw and they've gone on to be successful. I don't know that it was helpful for me, but that doesn't mean that it's a objectively bad drill. You know, it's just the way that I looked at it. I thought, oh, this is the entire throw, and then did everything around that. So yeah, I think it's definitely like I wouldn't phrase it that way now, but I think what you're saying, like, yeah, it helps people. It's there is value to it, but I usually try to make new versions of those videos. Looking back, if I see one that I don't like, there's probably an updated version of it. But yeah, there's definitely other videos that I'm less proud of in my on my channel.
For sure. Yeah, I've been less proud of a video immediately after posting it and reading a comment. It's
Yep.
like, oh, yeah, this probably has some truth to it. Let's delete it.
Yeah.
Like, should we just take it down now? And that's not even just like it's easy when the people are just straight up toxic people where, this person, no matter what I put out, they're just going to be an angry person. And that's okay. Like, we can keep the video up for the angry people. But it's the people who are like, I don't know, this got me doing this. And like, they tried it and you're like, how did you get there from what I said? My brain doesn't even my brain never gets from what I said to what you did. So, and it's like, man, but maybe the way I said it, maybe other people are getting from what I said to what you did. So that's where it gets tough.
It's hard to say. Yeah. I think I don't know. So all videos are going to be helpful. And I always say, like, if you're going to put out stuff on the internet, people always ask, like, how do I get started? How do I just can't, I always get scared to turn on the camera because I'm worried that I'm going to look dumb. I said, well, if you put out enough stuff on the internet, you're going to look dumb. Like, there's going to be a goofy video. I kind of did it on purpose. I made some like cringe videos, like the elbow video that it's one of my favorite videos that I've made, but it's still really cringe. Like, it's not high quality, I would say, but like, you're going to look dumb if you put out enough stuff on the internet. You just have to have the thick skin and the ability to push through that.
Right. And most people, well, maybe not most people. Let me rephrase that. There are some people who expect, if you are coaching, for you to know it all right away. Like, what qualifies you to be a coach? Well, because this is wrong. Like, or I know more than you. What then qualifies you to be a coach? It's like, most of the time, those people who know more aren't coaches and would never put out the first video and never improve, right? But you improved over putting out more and more videos. And that was actually the method for your improvement. Yeah. There's kind of this testing that you have to go through. You have to run into the problems to get better. So, I mean, how was that for you? How was running through the issues for you?
What do you mean? Like my own form issues or?
No, not your own form issues, but when you're putting out videos, like what had to change? What had to improve the most? Was it knowledge? Was it production?
I think it was mostly production. It was just putting effort on the production side, whether it's writing out a script, whether it was getting a nicer microphone, whether it was planning better or planning where to film better.
Mm.
There's videos of me standing in a pile of leaves for some of the first videos that I put out. There's some old videos where I'm in my kitchen with my little dog sitting behind me.
Yeah.
And it's just learning how to make the higher production value and more concise, try and keep everything, to the on topic has helped a lot as far as, because people are going to click away if the video isn't nice. It helps it reach a wider audience. Obviously there has been improvement in the knowledge and learning how to, and also learning the, I don't know, how to speak to the audience better rather than just speak to the way that I would like to hear it, speak to the way that it would help more people as well. Yeah, it's just learning how to do that. I think the biggest step up is probably production quality and then scripting out everything, planning it all.
Yeah. You answered that question about 10 times better than I asked it. Thank you.
No, I just kind of ramble.
Yeah. Me too. I'm feeling very rambly right now. Okay. Did you ever have the pressure when you would go out onto a disc golf? Because I'm assuming you were recognized when you would go play casual rounds, right?
Sometimes.
And you had the feeling that people might recognize you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming that we're kind of in similar boats because I could basically go to a disc golf course. Yeah, but back when you were grooving on your channel, 33,000 subs, it's like you were a thing in the disc golf scene, right? So I don't know if you felt this or not, but I could basically go to a disc golf course now and assume correctly that someone will say, "Hey, Josh from Overthrow Disc Golf," right? And there's like that little bit of pressure. It used to be more for me. It used to, for the first year, when I was getting recognized and stuff, I just felt so much pressure to play well, and it just made everything absolutely worse.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's another coach out there that kind of relates to this. Like I would assume that you would relate to this. So did you have that pressure when you were in full-fledged YouTuber solo channel mode? Like,
yeah.
Okay, people recognizing me, and what did you go through?
So I think, when I first started like putting out content, I would get, good-natured, razzing at tournaments. Like I hit a tree and be like, "When's the video on that coming?" Like they're just being friends, right? Like,
Yeah.
That is good-natured ribbing. And I think it started to be like, oh no, people are not going to listen to my videos if I suck at disc golf, right? Like if I don't play well, it's all this judgment, all these eyes are on me from, that negative perspective. And then I don't remember which tournament it was, but I distinctly remember one tournament where it kind of shifted, whereas the view that I had was not that people were looking at me waiting for me to fail. People were looking at me and they wanted me to do well. Right? The people watching, they're on my side. The mean comments are going to be mean comments, whatever. But overwhelmingly, the people who watch, they want to see me do well. And that was, it took a lot of the pressure off. Obviously I didn't want to disappoint anybody that was wanting me to do well, but it's almost like for the boys, like we're going to send this one, we're going to make it, we got to do well. 'Cause it's something bigger than just me. It's also the community that I had developed as part of that channel. And so it's shifting the perspective. It's the same kind of pressure. And it is still a little bit of pressure, but it's a different look at it. It's like, all right. And that helps too, because when they're looking at me waiting for me to fail, if I was looking at it that perspective, it would be really easy to go too much into excuses, right? It's to get that negative, that frustration, be like, they're going to hate this or whatever. But for my mental game, when it was these people are they want to see me succeed, that can, like, I don't know, it helps take a a more positive look on any bad things that happen. Like, oh, they want to see me recover from this. They want to see, at least that's what I told myself. They might have all been laughing at me every tree that I hit, every 900 rated round that comes out. But like, looking at it from that perspective was really helpful to me.
Wow. I'm really glad that I asked that because I've never looked at it from that perspective. Like, really, I think you're right. Out of however many people we have, if we got, I think 40,000 of the people that we have, if not more, if they were watching me, they would genuinely want me to succeed.
Yeah, they're looking at it. They're like, man, they want to see you throw it 600 feet. They want to see you make that putt. They want to see you do all this.
Wow. That's so good. And I realized actually what started kind of the change in my mindset a little bit was there were a couple watershed moments for me in this. And one of them was at Creators Cup last year when Robbie was like, dude, there's just too much pressure. Like, you just have way too much pressure going on. Like, and I was like, I do. But it's because my mindset was what you were saying. It's like there are people just waiting to watch me fail, and the comments will come out, and that's it. They're just waiting for their chance to go, I knew it. It's all a sham. Yeah, so I felt that, but yeah, people, I do believe that most of the people want to see me succeed. Wow.
No. Boy, Robbie C, what a dude.
What a dude. Yeah.
Love Robbie C, man.
Yeah, that's why I didn't play last year, is because I'd put so much pressure. Like, I practiced in everything, and it was just so much pressure. It's like, what is important here for this? Yeah. It is.
Gosh, I tried to do way too much at Creators Cup. I tried to film everything and get round coverage and all of that. And then on the 18th hole, when I threw OB 3 times in a row, oh man, it was fun, but it was way more stressful than it had any right to be.
Right. But yeah, I thought, man, I mean, at least you were able to get there. You and Robbie doing it, I was like, I'm not in a place where I can compete here. I really cannot. I'm not in that headspace. I'm going to move into our Patreon segment. Everybody who's watched up to this point, thank you so much. I hope you found value in this. We will catch you on the next one. Patrons, stick around.